The Hyundai Alcazar is here. Well, almost. And so, as has become customary these days, it seems we must begin with a look at the camouflaged car before we can see the uncovered one. And I also drove it, mind you, very briefly. It all began with the imagery of castles and royalty, and that's what Hyundai wants you to think of when you think of the Alcazar, named for Portuguese or Spanish castles. So we are at the magnificent Bishangarh Fort near Jaipur, only fitting, I suppose. The Alcazar will be Hyundai's next launch in India in a matter of weeks. So, am I calling this a first look? Well, no, that would be pretty ridiculous because for a first look, you would have to actually be able to look at the whole car. Can't really do that right now. Is this a first drive impression? Of course not. Yes, okay, I drove the car a little bit. Not enough to really comprehensively be able to tell you what you would like to know about that. So, what am I doing here today? Well, quite simply, telling you everything we currently know about the Alcazar. The Alcazar shares a lot with the Creta, and yet it is a different animal, targeted at a different buyer, says Hyundai. So besides the obvious difference, which is size, the Alcazar also gets its own powertrain, where also size matters, it would seem. You have a brand new, bigger, naturally aspirated 2-liter petrol that makes 157 bhp and 191 Nm of peak torque. And that is the engine I got a chance to drive for around 10 to 15 minutes. Now it seems promising, but I definitely need more time with it. Yes, there is also a diesel Alcazar that uses the familiar 1.5-liter U2 VGT motor that we do know from the Creta and many others. Same power output and torque as on the Creta, but Hyundai says it has shorter gear ratios. Now, I can only confirm that when I get to drive one. Transmission options include a 6-speed auto or manual on both fuel types, and yes, that means no 7-speed DCT or dual clutch, and no turbo petrol engine either. But Hyundai is going for segment best mileage figures on both fuel types. Now the Alcazar is a 3-row SUV, we know that part. We also know that Hyundai has said there will be a 6 and a 7-seater configuration, which means captain seats, of course, for the second row will be optional. But the part that has got me interested is the wheelbase. Now this is 2760 millimeters. On the Creta, it's 2610. So that means 150 millimeters more of space right here between the wheels. That's significant because all other 3-row SUVs, well, they all have 5-seater variants and they have the 7-seater variant, but the wheelbase remains the same. Here, you're getting a little more space. That's going to be good for the cabin. More space also because, well, back here the overhang is a little more than what you see on the Creta. We don't have the full dimensions yet, but visually you can tell it is more. You do have this extra quarter glass window here as well, and that means boot space will also be a whole lot more generous. The car's interior will sport a whole host of features like ventilated front seats. Also expect Creta-like equipment on infotainment, including a Bose sound system and the same-sized touchscreen and panoramic sunroof. But expect a plusher cabin than the Cretas, which you are seeing on the screen right now. The Alcazar's body uses over 75% high-strength and advanced high-strength steel, so it promises more protection, but again, we'll have to await more details on all the safety equipment at launch. All right, so the car is completely wrapped in camouflage with little forts all over it, but you can still see the alloy wheel pattern And you also get a look at the door handle. It has a little metal trim on it. It's also finished in the blue, this particular car. I'm always biased, and it's obviously the same blue as the Creta. Now, speaking of that, the face is very much like the Creta, right? But at the back is where the car looks completely different, has its own identity, and the big reason is the tail light. I'm relieved. You know how I felt about the Creta and its tail light. This one looks better. The Hyundai Alcazar will have its global debut at the end of April, and although it will end up in some other markets, it is primarily a for India product. The market launch and price announcement are expected in May 2021. And the Alcazar will primarily compete with the recently launched Tata Safari, MG Hector Plus, and the upcoming new generation of Mahindra's flagship, now to be called the XUV 700. And I expect pricing to settle between 15 and 20 lakh rupees across at least 3 trims on each fuel type. Hyundai did release some pictures of the car, and here you can see the side body sculpting and a new brown color in some detail.